It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Here's Jeff Parles.
Welcome in. It's Sports by the Book at the South Point Studio. Final Saturday of October. I'm Jeff Parles. Welcome in, everyone. Alex White is here alongside. How you doing this morning?
Good. I'm excited. It's going to be a great day. A lot of home dogs that may have a chance. Yeah, it went out right.
Home dogs, Al. Oh, so we know where Alex is leaning today. Very good.
That is
Pay attention, folks.
The dulcet tones of Vinny Magliulo, the best hair in the business.
Thank you.
We're having a fun discussion of Coach Vinny back in the day.
Yes. Several, decades. I coached, of course, I played and coached with Alex's dad, Kenny. We had, we might need a few shows just to go talk about those episodes.
Just adding on more books. Obviously, the three books that Chris has already written. A fourth one coming soon as well.
That's right.
You got to get the writing.
Well, yeah, as long as Chris keeps writing books, I'm good because he's kind enough to put me in his.
Well, you've always said you've had more pictures in his first book than he did.
No,
right?
he says that.
Yeah,
he says that, which I gave him clearance on. So that's I'm happy to assist in that regard.
All I know is and then one day. Chris's first book,
yes.
Of course, available on Amazon right now.
Still, yeah.
And a must read, and I'm not saying that to suck up to the boss. It is a great read all the way through.
Excellent.
The picture of him and Roxy Roxborough is still my favorite picture in that book. It's an all-time classic.
I have to tell you, and Roxy's had a big influence on, just for all of us. And there's some great photos. We still take good pictures with Roxy too. We just took some recently during the G2E, the gaming expo here, and we kind of what we do a lot of times with the pictures is compare them to the ones that you're talking about.
Well, and of course, Roxy helped Chris pick out the hat he had 2 weeks ago.
Yes, he did. Yeah, that was
the fedora.
The nice fedora.
Yes.
Well, yeah, it was either that or Chris was tinkering with the Greek fisherman's hat.
Yes, as Chris was saying, the Greek fisherman's hat.
Right.
That is not
that nobody wears in Greece.
That's not worn in Greece.
So once he did, I said, well, just go check out a fedora. So then a couple of days later, we ran into Roxy at an event, and that was it. Roxy confirmed it.
And the rest is history.
That's it, buddy, as we say. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, let's get into it. A Saturday in college football. Vinny, we only have you for a few minutes because you have a day job.
Yeah, that's there's some things to do back there.
So let's just go right into it. I'll let you pick the direction here. Which games are the games that you guys behind the counter are spotlighting the most here today?
Well, I think you go by what's getting to play, right? Yeah, I mean, I think that that's really what dictates things. I guess the first one will be the third game on the rotation today, 125 and 126, Tennessee and Kentucky. You're toggling back and forth between Tennessee, a 3.5 or 4 point favorite. So taking 4 points with the home dog, the Kentucky Wildcats, and laying the 3.5 when it goes. So not a lot of movement on the total, just hanging around 51, 52. But that's a game there. Alex, I know it's a home dog. I think we're trying to wait to see if Kentucky's not recovered from that beatdown to Georgia, and Tennessee's been a difficult out. So your thoughts on this one?
Yep, this is one of the home dogs I do like. I took Kentucky +4. Definitely a situational spot, like you mentioned, Vinny. Played very good against Bama. They were winning in the first half, and then they let that one slip away. So, one, they're going to be, down a little bit physically and then emotionally losing that. So, I like Kentucky here. They're very well coached, and Tennessee's offense is just down from last year with Joe Milton at quarterback, averaging 31.6 points per game compared to last year's 46.1. So, jumped in early, grabbed the 4 with the Wildcats.
Again, we talked about this a little bit yesterday on the Football Friday version of this show.
Uh-huh.
Just a matter of, for me, can Kentucky get enough offense where the last 2 weeks, Georgia drilled them, which is not much of a shock. And then the game against Mizzou, they're up 14-0 and then get blasted. The fake punt for a touchdown for Missouri flipped that game on its head. And for Tennessee, you mentioned it. Last week, they were the better team for 30 minutes. And then Alabama, like they did to Ole Miss, dominated the second half.
Yeah.
They made the coaching adjustments. Not much of a shock that Saban is better than Heupel, but I don't know many people that are on the same level as Nick Saban, to put it politely. I didn't bet this game. I didn't bet this game because I'm lower on Kentucky than I think the market is at this point. If they're not getting a big day on the ground,
that's the key for them.
If they can't run the ball, because when they've been at their best this year, it's been when Ray Davis has been incredible. Obviously, that game against Florida, he ran for 280 yards. But he was slowed down against Georgia. He was really slowed down after the first quarter against Mizzou. If Tennessee's able to slow him down, I don't think Leary's capable of beating a good team with his arm.
No question. It all revolves around him. And if they can't get a consistent game out of their offensive backfield, then things have, we saw it in the two losses, right? And there's no other option for them. So this is a game, though, that I think, right now, this is a really good a late betting game, even though it's early on the rotation. Again, remember, rotation numbers really dictate how we put the games in order, not in time order. So this one's a 4:00, but it's listed as the third game on the schedule.
And I love that 4:00 because I think it's going to be a great atmosphere, good crowd there for Kentucky. Night game, people show up for those. It does scare me a little bit because Tennessee has dominated in this rivalry. But, this is a much better Kentucky team than we've seen, especially over the last couple of years.
I think the next game is a 9:00 game. This one here we should get to because this one has really seen quite a bit of action. It's Duke and Louisville, 133 and 134 on the rotation numbers. 4 up to 6 now. Louisville favored here. Now, of course, you've got the situation with Duke's quarterback Leonard. He had to leave last game, and I think that's obviously
the latest report.
I was going to say, Jeff, you got that.
Pete Timel this morning at a nice hearty 4:30 a.m. Pacific with this article. Vinny. Game time decision, but there is optimism for his chances to play.
Yeah.
From my perspective, I think it's nuts that they're even considering playing him today with him aggravating that ankle injury a week ago in Tallahassee. Duke's going to a bowl game, and they're probably going to a pretty reasonable bowl game, even with a loss today. I don't think that's the right decision for him even to be a game time decision at this rate.
Well, I think what they're thinking is maybe do they still have a chance to get to the ACC title game? Right? It
would take a lot.
It would. Yeah, they need help, but they're also trying to take care of their business, and that would speak to a much higher bowl game, right? I'm not saying it's going to make it's a playoff game, but it's certainly a situation where we'd like to play on New Year's, right, or New Year's Eve.
They could play. They could technically get sent to Miami and play in the Orange Bowl with a second place finish in the ACC
so,
this year.
I don't know if you have a play on this one, Alex, but it has moved. But I guess the quarterback situation is what is going to determine.
Yeah, I definitely stayed away from this one because of that. Louisville, they lost to Pittsburgh, but then they finally got their bye week, right? So they had played 7 straight before that loss, and they are playing really good, averaging 33 points per game, 8.9 yards per pass attempt. If Leonard was a go, I'd probably lean towards Duke here, but I decided to pass.
Vinny, I do want to ask you about a 9 a.m. game that's going to go in Lawrence here today. Kansas football against Oklahoma. Bettors have taken Kansas here. Even though Jalen Daniels, it would be a shocker if he played this week with that back injury. It's going to be Jason Bean, more likely than not. I open 10, squarely down a whole 1.5 to 8.5 here on KU getting it at home against Oklahoma.
Yeah, there was some. We're at 8.5, and there were some 8s out there. I think what folks are looking at is that Oklahoma. Listen, Venable's first year there last year, their defense strong. He was defensive coordinator for so long at Clemson, and that I think it was a surprise to folks at how poor Oklahoma's defense was a year. It's much better this year, but it's actually given up some points too in some recent games. So when you look at it, I think it's just a matter of value. again, in college teams will look ahead. I always say this: college teams tend to to look ahead, particularly to rivalry games. And remember, Bedlam is early this year; it's next week against Oklahoma State, who's playing much better. Pro teams can have letdowns, but the colleges maybe there's a look at maybe that's what's on the minds of some folks. Bean's done a pretty good job for the Jayhawks as well, and I think it was a play on the double digits, Alex.
Yeah, you were talking about Oklahoma, right? Look ahead. They have Oklahoma State up next. I did take the 10 with Kansas here. They are much better at home than on the road. I know they lost 2 of their last 3, but those were on the road. 4-0 straight up and 3-1 ATS at home, outscoring opponents by 20 in Lawrence, and then they've been outscored by 9 on the road. So, again, another bye week, extra time to prepare here for Kansas, but jumped in early with the 10.
I had the 10 as well. I would not be shocked if this is an outright upset. Would not be shocked.
You haven't been very high on Oklahoma.
You know what? Yes, but this is a really tricky spot, as both of you said, with Bedlam next week, and they were lucky to win that game a week ago at home against Central Florida, who is not as good. Look, with Plumlee, maybe they are on the same level as this Kansas team is, but I would not be shocked if Kansas pulls an outright shocker today and really throws a wrench into the Big 12's potential playoff plans. If with a KU win, that best the team's going to do is 12-1 in the Big 12.
Well, if that happens, if Oklahoma loses, then the Big 12 is probably on the outside looking in.
They would be. They would be
in terms of the playoff. Again, this is the last year of the 14 playoff. I want to point out a game it's not early. It's fairly early in the rotation, but it's a 5:00 Pacific start. And the reason I'm bringing it up is Old Dominion and James Madison. James Madison up 3 points off the opener, 18 up to 21. I've got to tell you, the reason I bring it up is because we've got more action on this game than, let's say, the first game on the rotation, Michigan State and Minnesota. We've had action on Madison games all year. I mean, it's pretty amazing. We've talked quite a bit about them. The fact that they're not bowl eligible in the infinite wisdom of the NCAA. Why, I don't know. But, look, this is a good program. I'm glad they're in D1 now, Alex. But this is a game, too, where I think you have to pay attention to the line movement. And I'm not sure if you have, but 3 touchdowns now. It seems to be I don't think you're going to lay it.
I love the two-way action on the side. I'm not on the side. I'm actually on the over. I took over 48.5. I know my dad and my grandpa, they took Old Dominion plus 20, so that gave me a lot of faith that this team is going to score as well. I mean, James Madison won last year 37-3, but this is a much better Monarchs team. They already have one more win than they finished with last year. But I love this James Madison team. I think Jordan McLeod has been really good at quarterback for them, and I said it every week. They're fun to watch. So I usually do have at least a small bet.
Of something involved, either side or total.
James
Very
Madison.
good.
You know what's the most amazing part of this game, Vinny? The total hasn't moved at all.
No, not that much.
Legitimately 49. And it stayed there the whole week.
Yeah, it's if it's moved, it's about a half a point. We've seen other totals move quite a bit, but no, not in this one.
It was pretty wild, all things considered. I do want to ask you this real quick. Because it's a game Alex is on. It's a game that I will probably make myself be on as well. But the weather in Colorado today, Vinny, potential for up to a foot of snow now in the state of Colorado. Colorado State's hosting Air Force.
Yeah.
This has been taken from 12 as high as to 15, back to 14.5 when it was actually earlier today.
We just went to 14.5 here at South Point. Right.
The always beloved game that the total is bet down, but the favorite continues to get bet up north of 2 touchdowns, down to 46.5. Vinny, we've had this discussion with rain. It's the same deal with snow. Snow on its own, not much of an impact. Snow with wind, very much an impact.
Yeah, the wind is can tend to be a bigger factor, right? And again, when you have a game like this that gets run, I suspect that we'll see some more support for the home underdog here, particularly with the weather and the fact that it's gone through 2 touchdowns now, right? So, again, the game opened 12, Air Force, with that possession game. Well, we know that Colorado State can score, too. And so Again, is the weather going to have an impact? Probably, Alex, but that's why points are at a premium when you get those factors involved.
Yes, they are. I wish I had 2 more points. I jumped on a little bit too early. I took Colorado State plus 12.5 before the weather reports. But as you mentioned, they can score. They're a feisty team. I mean, they've held in there with a lot of teams. Even last week against UNLV, I thought that really proved the direction this team is going. I mean, they came down to the wire with them. But Air Force, too, I do think they're a really good team, but maybe a little overrated. I mean, they beat up on a lot of Mountain West teams that have been not so great. And then they've also, their first 2 games, Robert Morris and Sam Houston. So I think the Rams can hang in this one as long as the weather's not too bad. I know it'll be tough to throw the ball.
The only thing that I said, and I said this to Chris yesterday, Vinny, on the show, and Alex, it's a little bit strange to me where, to me, Colorado State is a better team than Navy. The only thing that Navy really had going for it is that it was similar style.
Well, it's emotion too, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
it's a
the rivalry game.
Yes, I get that, but that game cost 11 last week. This is 14.5, and there's no elevation issues here. You got both teams always playing at a mile high.
Sure.
It's a conference game. Air Force also plays Army next week. So maybe a little bit of a look-ahead spot.
Perhaps. But they're also undefeated, right? And want to keep that unblemished record, right?
Look, we've talked about that yesterday. This was a 12-team playoff. Air Force would have a really good claim to getting that non-Power 5 spot.
They would be lobbying, that's for sure.
I would say that they should be getting it. If they go 13-0, they should be a lock. It's a shame that we wouldn't see an Air Force versus Big 12 champion game. That would be a game where I would absolutely bet Air Force over whoever against whoever wins the Big 12.
It would get support. I mean, there would be some sentimental support.
Air Force takes a trip to Austin. Hey, I could get behind that.
You get
behind that.
Next year, buddy.
Next year, yes.
The other Colorado, you were mentioning.
Coach Prime.
Yeah, he's not going to have to deal with any snow in Los Angeles.
You sure about that?
I'm pretty confident that. Yeah, I can tell you this: the no snow is a pretty significant favorite. UCLA from 17 as low as 14 until we get back to 14.5. So a lot of support for the Buffs here in this one, and but yet under money. Again, 63 down to 61. I believe that there'll be some more support for the over as we get closer to kickoff today. This is a 4:30 game. And there'll be a lot carrying over to it that's going to impact the number there too. So, but again, a lot of support for Colorado early, and we didn't, find the UCLA threshold, Alex, till we got the 14.
Love Colorado plus 17.5. Took that early. Colorado coming off a much needed bye. They had a pretty tough schedule, and against Oregon, that was a really bad spot for them. So I think they hang in this one. I think Coach Prime will have his team ready. Going back to week 1, I mean, he really instilled in his team, like, you can beat anyone. They went out there. They handled their business against TCU. Now we're kind of seeing that it's not the same TCU team as last year. But still, I think he gets them ready, and his players needed that week off as well.
Here's an interesting one out of Kansas right now, real quick, guys. Jalen Daniels did a full warm-up today, and Jalen Daniels is currently dressed in uniform.
Okay.
So, again, it's still nothing on if he's going to play or not. That's a report from the paper in Topeka that covers the Kansas Jayhawks. Jordan Gusky on the report there for the Topeka Capital Journal.
All right. I'm sure he took 10.
I'll say this. If Daniels is in, I'll just ask you this real quick. If Daniels somehow shocks us all and does play here, because it's down to 7.5 in some spots now, Vinny.
Yeah. Gets to 7 and probably
7's probably the buy point.
Yeah, I would say. I don't think it goes lower than 7.
Okay.
But again, is he 100%? He's not 100%, right? It's not a question.
You would assume he's not.
So, and Bean has done a good job, a very more than serviceable job. So, look, it's the fact that he's not 100%. I think don't overreact. right?
Okay.
So the other game I wanted to point out, too, in terms of action, is Nebraska. And Nebraska's down to 1 now against Purdue. We opened this game 2.5. And we were on yesterday. It was still 2.
Still 2, yeah.
Then they took 2 overnight and 1.5 this morning. Just went to 1 right now with the Huskers. And again, I think the big question with the Huskers, a lot of injuries. They had some injuries last week to their offensive line. Made the quarterback switch, and look, listen. I love the Huskers defense. We've talked about it all season long, which has been very solid. But from the beginning, their offense has struggled even before the season started. Alex, injuries at the wide receiver position. Now you've got injuries on the offensive line, which are critical. So this game's down to pick. I don't know if you got involved early or if you have any play on this one at all.
Well, you just said their defense is really good, Vinny,
Mm-hmm.
and they're holding opponents to 19.3 points a game. So that did lead me to take a play on Nebraska. -2.5. I didn't get the better number. I didn't expect all this action coming in on Purdue because, their defense has not been good. They haven't been able to stop the run or the pass. So, it makes me a little nervous. These Big Ten games have been uneventful, to say the least. So they are kind of like tight, low-scoring games, right? And Dogs kind of have had the advantage there. But I am on Nebraska.
I am on Nebraska as well. I'll probably go back for a little bit more. This Purdue team's really not – neither of these teams are any good. But I'll take the home team here. In
Nebraska's headed in a better direction, though, right?
Their
with
defense
rules.
is
So
good.
yes,
They have a really good defense.
I think the way I like their philosophy too. Get some friends there that follow the program very closely, and look, and they're fans, but they're pretty objective. Pretty hard practices, full contact.
Not a shock there.
No, hitting everything. So it's. I think rules got them headed in a good direction. A low total too, right? 39.5.
Don't mind that under.
No.
Don't mind that under, even at the really low total.
So this one you might have to check. I think this might have a little snow too.
Double check.
There's one game I was trying.
Not good weather. Yeah,
right?
It's pretty pretty soggy, pretty cool and breezy.
No snow, but it's 36 degrees at kick. So it'll be cold.
Yeah,
be cold in Lincoln. Vinny, what else do you have?
At Oregon and Utah here. Look, we know that Cam Rising's done for the season, but our friends at game day are there for this one. So 6.5 and 7 went down to 6 now. So it was toggling back and forth, laying 6.5, taking the 7 with the Utes at home. But now a 6 on that one. I'm not sure. Are you involved with this home dog, Alex?
I am not involved with this home dog. I think that everybody is overreacting to what we saw from Utah last week. If you watch their games throughout the season, their offense could barely do anything. Yes, Bryson Barnes, coming off his career high game. But you have to remember that Utah just plays USC tough. I don't think Caleb Williams or Lincoln Riley has a win against them. So that was kind of expected for them to play USC tough. I know they're at home. I know that this is a tough environment to play in, but I just think Oregon is the much better team here.
Yeah.
I could see myself jumping in a little bit, maybe
laying the 6.
Maybe laying the 6, maybe a little in game if I have the opportunity.
Nothing.
All right.
Nothing. I don't like Utah's offense. Said that on the show yesterday. Oregon is an offense that is capable of scoring even on an elite defense. Like I said yesterday, if Utah somehow gets to 20, they'll cover. I don't think you're getting to 20 though.
Watch one other one. Well, a game that's obviously the cocktail party. We're going to watch 15 on Georgia when they opened down to 14. They did take a couple of pops at 15, 14.5. No Brock Bowers, so we're going to find out some things about Georgia here as they get into a very interesting part of their schedule, particularly with that injury. And another game that's moved quite a bit that might surprise some folks. Iowa State from 1.5 got as high as 3.5 until we took some Baylor money and went back to 3.
Yeah, that one surprised me. We talked about that on the show a little bit yesterday. A little too aggressive for my liking on Iowa State. They are the better football team, but you are asking them to go on the road in conference play. You already did it against Cincinnati, but Cincinnati is the worst in the conference at this point in the Big 12 with 14 teams. But I think that's still good with 3 on the Bears at home. If you wanted to touch that one, I don't know if you played. I don't think you played that one. Alex,
I didn't.
Right? Yeah. No. Vinny, I'll let you go back to your day job.
I'm going. Good to be with both of you.
Vinny
Magliulo, be listening everyone. The rest of the way.
Absolutely.
I want to get Alex's picks so we keep
have
track of this sharp money.
We already got a few of them.
That's
here
good.
In this opening segment, we have more from Alex on her plays today. Boy, there's a really good Pac-12 After Dark game today that some people may not realize is as good as it is. Alex has a play on that and some more. We get back. Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.
South Point offers all the types of entertainment you'd expect at a first-class Las Vegas resort. Did you know our 400-seat showroom is one of Las Vegas's top destinations for live entertainment? Enjoy live performances by classic Vegas entertainers, bands, and today's hottest comedians, plus a rock and dance floor. You can also enjoy live entertainment at the Grandview Lounge, where you'll feel all the vibes of old Las Vegas. Enjoy the music, and if you love to laugh, don't miss The Dirty at 12:30, our very own free comedy show. Every Friday night at 12:30 a.m. in the Grandview Lounge. The Dirty is 100% free, so arrive early. Go to southpointcasino.com or call the box office at 77136 for today's performances at the showroom and the Grandview Lounge. When you're ready for your favorite cocktail, stop in and unwind at one of our 7 specialty lounges. There's a bar around every corner, because you're in Vegas, baby. South Point Casino has plenty of attractions for the whole family. Catch a movie. Our 16-screen movie theater includes 2 XD Extreme screens for the ultimate in viewing, sound, and luxury. After the show, treat the family to a variety of treats at our old-fashioned ice cream parlor, Kate's Corner. We scoop up a variety of creamy concoctions, including smoothies, hand-dipped cones, milkshakes, malts, sodas, and sundaes. At Kate's, there's something for everyone. And if you've still got time to spare, our bowling center might be right up your alley. Voted Best of Las Vegas, it's a great place for friends and family fun. 64 lanes, a pro shop, snack bar, and arcade. And while the kids are bowling, you can play slots and sip on a drink in the Alley Cat Lounge while overlooking the lanes. For our more serious and professional bowlers, the South Point is also home to a separate tournament bowling plaza.
Welcome back in Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio. I'm Jeff Parles, Alex White alongside. Happy to be with you. Big shout to our guy Vincenzo, Vinny Magliulo, who joined us for the first 25 minutes of the show. All right, we got a lot to get to. Alex, I just want to go back to Kentucky and Tennessee real quick because this was one of your better plays. The market is starting to move on Kentucky here. Behind us is the lone remaining 4 in this game. Now, I just want to go through this real quick where Tennessee last week, we both mentioned it, poor in the second half against Alabama. Kentucky's played 2 straight poor games against arguably the 2 best teams in the SEC East in Georgia and Missouri. Just when you're dealing with with teams that are so familiar with each other as well, isn't that usually like, all right, the home dog, you're more inclined to take the points, even if the numbers don't necessarily, even though the numbers did match up here, even if they didn't match up as well as you would like sometimes?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, know each other very well. And this Kentucky team, I said it, they're a lot better than this Tennessee is used to. So, I mean, yeah, I like the points here definitely. And Tennessee, their offense with Joe Milton, I just don't think it's the same Tennessee team as well. Good environment, night game, great crowd. I'm actually looking forward to this one.
Let's keep it in that region of the country. Let's go to Florida State at Wake Forest here. This is a game that's starting at the top of the hour. Florida State, undefeated. I would say at this point, if there's one team that I feel confident in being in the college football playoff with all the factors that go into it, the Noles are that one team that I think will get through the schedule at 13-0 and will be in the college football playoff in some fashion. I didn't say they're going to win it. I just said they're going to be there. Taking on Wake, who beat Pitt last week. Alex, the total's been bet up. This is the direction you went here. There are still some 52s in the market. Would you consider playing that lower number at 52 over right now?
I wouldn't take 52. I made it 54.5. So I jumped on a 51 over 51.5. Like you mentioned, Wake won last week, 31-21 as a 6-point underdog. So we just need 10 to 14 points from Wake Forest here. The Seminoles averaging 41 points a game. I feel very good about them putting some on the board for us. And as you mentioned, I mean, they are on the road to the college football playoff. So should be a good game. And, you know, I still think that they will give us their full effort because they know what's at stake.
The Wake Forest team's not any good. That's my real takeaway from this game. This game didn't pop at all for me. So nothing on this. Alex, on a earlier better number on the total at 51.5. Let's, you know what? It's rare that Clemson becomes an afterthought. And they are an afterthought now. They're on the road at NC State today. Total's down to 44.5. Clemson's a 9.5-point favorite on the road, which is kind of more of an indictment of what NC State is at this point. 43.5 was the number that you got here, Alex. So I'm going to say that you like 44 under as well.
I do. I do like under 44. I did jump in at 43.5. I mean, Clemson's defense is definitely the strength of this team. They're known for their defense under Dabo Swinney. You know, he's done a great job there. But their offense has not been very good this year. And then Brennan Armstrong, you know, he has struggled for NC State. And I think we see Clemson's pass defense really take advantage there. So under 43.5 for me here.
Clemson, I will say this with Clemson. When I didn't expect it to fall apart this quickly after Dabo lost his coordinators, but they are right on the march to being totally irrelevant in the college football landscape, which is amazing for a program that won the title twice. He had Deshaun Watson, he had Trevor Lawrence. Kind of just shows when you have an elite quarterback, it's a lot easier to win at any level of football. They haven't had that since Trevor Lawrence got drafted into the NFL in that 2021 season, and it has showed the last 2 years with a very mediocre football team these last 2 years there in Clemson. All right, let's go back on the rotation number here. I actually accidentally skipped this game. West Virginia on the road at Central Florida. You don't have a play in this game. Bounce has the site for this one. It's 6.5. I did lay it with Central Florida. Total 59 here. I actually don't mind that over. The big difference between West Virginia, Alex, from their really good, shocking start to the year was their defense played really well. The only game their defense didn't play well in those first 5 games was a game at Penn State. That's acceptable. Penn State's a legitimate top 7 team in the country. I don't care that Ohio State shut them down. Only the really elite defenses have been able to show an ability to slow Penn State down. But West Virginia's defense have come really back to earth the last 2 weeks. Over 7 yards to play to Houston, over 7 yards to play to Oklahoma State. A 28-point fourth quarter by Oklahoma State last week to lose at home to the Pokes. Central Florida's offense with Plumlee's good offense. And I expect Central Florida to be able to move the ball. Wish it was down to 6. I don't think we're getting there. That's why I laid the 6.5 with the Knights. And
last week you were on the Knights as well, and you jumped in on a little in-game. So
I had a double. Yeah. No sweat on the Knights last week.
So I don't blame you for backing them again this week against West Virginia.
Let's go to North Carolina, Georgia Tech real quick, Alex. There's some 11 in the market now on this, which is only one book, which is the market low. Behind us, 12, North Carolina at Georgia Tech, the matchup here. Boy, UNC was just a disaster last week. The worst, I would argue, the worst loss of the college football season, with everything at stake. UNC, a legitimate path to the playoff as of last week. If they win out, they probably get there. Now it's, even if you beat Florida State in the ACC title game, that loss to one of the worst Power 5 teams in the country in Virginia, that's going to get held against you. Now they're 12-point favorites, or 11, depending on where you're looking right now. I laid 11.5 earlier in the week with UNC, which means I'll probably be going back for 11 with the Tar Heels here. Georgia Tech's bad, and this is a really good bounce-back spot for the Heels.
I completely agree. Terrible loss last week, but I want to see how North Carolina responds. I do think that they bounce back here. against Georgia Tech. And, Georgia Tech, they've fallen apart in the last few weeks as well. I know because I had them with the points a couple times. So I like that play here with North Carolina. It's definitely a lean for me, but I haven't taken it yet.
Quick report on the Kansas game. Just want to go through this. Brett McMurphy with this latest one. Bean is going to start. Daniels is dressed and available if needed. But that has not stopped the bettors here because this is down to 7 in most spots right now. Behind us, still one of the few 7.5s that remain in the market on that game. Wind also a factor, as we mentioned earlier. That's really the bigger thing in those Midwestern games. Wind more than precipitation, as we know in the Colorado games. The potential for up to a foot of snow in that Air Force and Colorado State game.
I like that move here. I would prefer a healthy Jason Bean over Jalen Daniels out there just, injured and not being able to do his best. So that's good. We have him if needed. If needed
for Daniels. A little surprised that this market is still moved on that news. It's starting to go back to 7.5 at some spots now. So that makes a bunch of sense to me. All right. Let's go to this one, Alex. Wyoming at Boise State, the matchup here on the blue turf. I did not bet this game yet. It's 4.5 mostly in the market, 4.5 behind us here at the South Point. There is a 1-5. It opened 5 earlier in the week. At 5, I don't mind Wyoming. I don't know if it's strong enough for me to play that. It's a weird spot for the Pokes on the road. Boise is still alive, even with that ridiculous loss they took a few weeks ago in Fort Collins against Colorado State. They're still alive in the race for the Mountain West Championship game.
Oh, they definitely are. And I think this is a great bounce back spot for Boise State. I actually did lay the 5. They say you should take the favorites early, and sometimes it still doesn't go your way. I don't like betting against Wyoming. They are a very tough team, and they find a way to stay in these games. But I think this is a really important one for the Broncos, so I backed Boise State.
Broncos, who obviously had a very bad time of it in non-con this year, pummeled by Washington, lost that close game at home to Central Florida. I just don't like their coaching staff. It's not your Chris Peterson days anymore.
Right.
It is a coaching staff that I don't think should be coaching at this level, at the Boise State level, and it's part of the reason you're 3-4 this year. But in the end, I'm probably not gonna touch this game. Alex is on Boise State laying the 5 against Wyoming here today. All right, I want to touch on this again. We touched on it a little bit with Vinny, but I want to get your deeper thoughts on Oregon and Utah here today. Salt Lake City, of course, the site, College game day there. The Utes at home, 6-point underdogs behind us. There's also 6.5 in the market on this one. 47 a total. Both of these teams are still alive for the Pac-12 championship game. And I guess if you're still alive for the Pac-12 championship game with one loss, you're still alive for the college football playoff.
That's right. And both of these teams have been very good. I think Oregon is the best team in the Pac-12, though. That is why I took a little flyer on them to win it. So I do think Oregon gets it done here. Utah, known for their defense, very good all year long. And then they are coming off 2 games of 34 points. So we've seen their offense start to come alive. But I just don't think we're going to see that same production from Bryson Barnes 2 weeks in a row, especially Oregon's defense is a lot better than USC's defense.
Well, yes. I think if we had a defense with the 5 of us in the studio as half the defense, it might be better than USC's 11 right now. Ann's head perked up when I said that. I don't think Ann is believing me on that one. But regardless, on Oregon, I just want to look at this from the Ducks' perspective real quick. Because Utah, they're really well coached. They're very physical. They're not good enough to run through the rest of their Pac-12 schedule undefeated. But for Oregon, where the Ducks are 6-1, their lone loss is a field goal game against a legitimate top 5 team in their building, where there's a legitimate argument that Oregon was the better side that day. They just didn't get it done. You win out. If you're the Ducks, you're in. You go 12-1 with a rematch win at Washington against Washington here in town, just due north of the Allegiant Stadium. You're getting into the college football playoff. Utah, I don't think they're good enough to win out. Their offense, 34 points last week, is like Washington scoring 70. So it's not happening again. And they have to go to Seattle in 2 weeks. They're probably not winning that game. So for the Ducks, they have everything to play for. I think the number's right at 6. I think it is right. I think that total's too high, though. That's the one thing I'll say here. At 47, you're dealing with a really good defense with the Ducks. We know Utah's great on defense, and their offense is mediocre. This has the feel of a 23-14, 23-17, something in that pocket that gets you under that 47, Alex. That would be my favorite play from this game.
I like it. I was definitely leaning towards the under. I might have to jump on Oregon money line parlayed with the under here.
I don't know. Oregon's a good money line parlay team today. If you wanted to go that route, again, I just don't think Utah has the horses on offense in order to pull the upset, unless if that defense does something spectacular, which, hey, not impossible for them to do that.
It's a shame that we don't get to see Cam Rising at all this season, because I would like to see what that team looks like, especially in this conference that has so many good teams. It's a shame.
Let's go to your alma mater real fast.
Okay.
How about that? UNLV bowl eligible with the win a week ago over Colorado State. On the road today at Fresno State. Alex, I will say this. This has been actually one of the more interesting bet games here at the South Point, where this open 9 and the bettors actually came in and took the 9 with UNLV, and now it's been bet back up to 9 in this one, total 57. My concern with this one, because in the way that I looked at it this week, it actually did look like, all right, the number's pretty good on UNLV, but this really feels like a brutal spot for them. You're going on the road to a team that is, to me, the second best team in the league. Still on the Air Force is better than Fresno. And you just got bowl eligible for the first time in a long time. This has the classic letdown spot written all over it potentially for the Rebs.
It really does. And I actually made Fresno a 12-point favorite here. So I don't know if I'm really tough on the Rebels and, I haven't adjusted with them enough yet. But, I mean, Barry Odom, he is a great coach. He's done really good with this UNLV team. I wouldn't be shocked if they hung in there and even, put up a good fight against Fresno State. But it was definitely a stay-away game for me.
Yeah, I'm not going to play it. I'm just too concerned that this is one of those where, hey, you reached your goal. You got to a bowl game. Team probably is not quite ready for that next step of making it to the Mountain West title game, which, hey, if they win out, they will be there. And that game will be at Allegiant Stadium. But it's just one of those where the spot is brutal against a good Fresno State team on the road there. Late game, 7:30 Pacific. So you're up late. That's your Mountain West after dark game here tonight. All right, I want to hit one more before we take a quick break. USC in Berkeley taking on Cal. Alex, I am sure I'm going to dislike myself midway through this game. I bet USC laying 10 against Cal. Total got bet down to 66.5. I know it's a dangerous game to lay points with a team that can't stop anyone, but I really do not like this Cal team. And if there's a team that's going to give up 50 to USC, it would come today for USC's offense to show up and look like that unit we expected them to be all year long, not the one we saw the last 2 weeks.
So it is really interesting, right? Because we could see that USC team show up. I mean, they still have the chance to play for the Pac-12. Their season is not completely over, but how are the players feeling? Do they feel like their season's over because they no longer have a chance to be in the playoffs? But I agree with you. This Cal team is not very good, and I just stayed away because I didn't know which USC team we were going to get.
I think this is for USC. We talked about this a little bit on the show yesterday with Chris and Vinny. They're going to be a dog at home next week against Washington. Yep. They are 100% going to be a dog in Eugene against Oregon. And in UCLA, that's a flippy game at the Coliseum. There's a real chance that this is USC's last win of the season, as wild as that may seem. So I think this is a good smash spot for them. The problem is we have not seen, other than that, the first 3 games of the year, where they put 56, 66, and 56 on their first 3 opponents, where San Jose State, Nevada, Stanford, not a murderer's row of opponents.
Not at all.
We've not seen them play well against reasonable teams all year. So that is the one concern here, even though Cal is closer to those teams than the other teams that we've seen USC play so far this year. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to look at everyone's favorite cocktail party down in Jacksonville, Florida, Georgia, getting it going later this afternoon. And also, Washington is a huge favorite against Stanford. We'll see if Alex has any thoughts on that one when we come back. Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.
We have 11 amazing restaurants featuring a wide variety for every price range and appetite. South Point's Garden Buffet has something for everyone at unbeatable prices. Or, if hunger strikes in the middle of the night, join us at Coronado Cafe. The American menu offers breakfast, lunch, or dinner 24 hours a day, plus a Chinese kitchen for authentic Chinese dishes from 11 a.m. to 11 p.m. From steak and eggs to wonton soup, it's fast and friendly service 24/7. When you need a quick pick-me-up, you can find it at our state-of-the-art Starbucks just inside the main South Point entrance. Order ahead with the Starbucks app for easy mobile order pickups. Or enjoy your favorites in the relaxing dining area anytime, day or night. If you love Mexican food, Baja Miguel's has all of your south-of-the-border favorites. There are dozens of classics to choose from, like fajitas, ceviche, chimichangas, tacos, and more. And for spirit lovers, Baja's colorful non-smoking tequila bar is right outside. Or maybe you're in the mood for seafood. Big Sur Oyster Bar has fresh seafood prepared right before your eyes. Savor freshly shucked oysters, crab legs jambalaya, shrimp and lobster. Beers on tap and a selection of fine wines are perfect to pair with your seafood favorite. Whether lunch or dinner, you'll love this fun atmosphere, located just off the casino floor. Ready to shake things up? Step back in time and treat yourself to one of the oldest restaurant chains in the country. Steak and Shake, famous for original mouth-watering steak burgers and hand-dipped milkshakes in a variety of flavors. For some old-fashioned fun, try Steak and Shake.
Final segment for us here on Sports by the Book today. I'm Jeff Parles. Alex White, of course, last man standing champion of a year ago in college football up at Stations Casinos. So again, we don't mention that enough. I need to remember to mention that every single show. But Alex, of course, with the plays today in college football, we'll get to one more in the Pac-12 that you have in a little bit. But I want to go to Jacksonville first because Florida takes on Georgia. This is technically Florida as the home team in this one. Georgia, no Brock Bowers, who, Alex, I'll just ask you this real quick. Because I had this discussion with Vinny 2 weeks ago. Obviously, he's not a quarterback. He's a tight end. But to me, he's the best skill position player in the country other than Marvin Harrison Jr. He's the one guy that you can take off of Georgia and say, okay, there is a discernible difference to the line. I'm not even sure how big of a difference Carson Beck to their other quarterbacks is. But I know that Brock Bowers to the next man up, that is a significant difference for this Georgia team.
Oh, definitely. I would say 2.5 points. I don't know what Vinny had, but yeah, and quarterbacks are usually 2 to 4, so it is very close.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And I will say this with Bowers again for Georgia, they're still by the rankings, which we know don't matter for betting. They're still number one power ratings wise. Where do you have Georgia right now? Where do they still top 5 for you on
still top 5?
Still top 5. I think they're probably closer to 5 than they are closer to 1 at this point. But this is a Florida team and a rivalry game where Florida, of course, they lost week 1 to Utah. They got decimated in Lexington a few weeks ago. 2 weeks ago was the last time we saw Florida. They did not. They did not help you out in that game in Columbia, South Carolina, where South Carolina somehow blew that game to Graham Mertz and company. It's 14 right now, down from 15. I still think Florida's okay at 2 touchdowns in this game, Alex.
See, I don't hate that at all. I don't have a play in this one. I am buying the fact that I think Georgia does slip up somewhere here, but I don't know if it's this game against Florida. You know, I really like your alma mater and Missouri, and that one's coming up next. So I'm kind of leaning more towards maybe Missouri gets the upset, but big rivalry game, neutral site. I mean, it's a great environment out there. And the Gators, they play Georgia tough every year. So I don't hate taking 2 touchdowns with them.
Mizzou and Ole Miss, the next 2 games on deck for Georgia. The good thing for the Dogs is they're both between the hedges there in Athens. So both home games,
Yep.
a real chance to still get to 12-0, which is all that really matters for Georgia. And then, all right, then you're in a flip game against Alabama or a favorite against LSU in Atlanta in the SEC title game. Georgia goes 13-0. We know Georgia's getting the number 1 seed in the college football playoff, or at worst, the number 2 seed in the college football playoff, and more than likely playing that game in New Orleans in the Sugar Bowl. Let's backtrack here on the rotation numbers. Let's go to Oregon State and Arizona, because you have a play on this game, and this is actually a sneaky good game late here in Tucson. Arizona playing much better football over the last few weeks. They're over 500. They get Oregon State, whose lone loss this year was on the road in Pullman against Wazoo. Somewhat of a similar spot here on the road in Tucson. 3-point favorites the Beavers are.
I agree, and I don't think it was a fluke that Arizona beat Washington State. I mean, they've been playing really good football, so I think the betting market has finally just caught up to them. Because 3.5, I mean, if you would have looked at this game a few weeks ago, you would have been getting a lot more points with the Wildcats. But I did take the 3.5. I do think they have a chance to win this game outright. Now they're at home, and Noah, is it Fifita? How do you say it?
It's Fafita is how Fafita is how I at least have heard it. Now, who knows with a name like that? Fafita's been awesome.
He has been so good for them since he jumped in week 4 in the 4th quarter to help the Wildcats beat Stanford. So, yeah, I like this Wildcats team again. They are coming off a bye. I don't know if that actually hurts them or helps them in this case because their momentum was really good. Beating Washington State and coming off of that.
Yeah, that was one of the bigger no-shows in the country. What Wazoo did against Arizona 2 weeks ago, just eviscerated 44-6, and it wasn't even that close. I'm just curious from Arizona's perspective, how much of this is them, or how much of this is the opponents the last 2 weeks? Because USC really sleptwalked that game. Arizona probably should have won that game in the Coliseum.
They should have won that game.
And then Wazoo is in the middle of just a really bad stretch. But they did play Washington really tough.
Yes, they did.
The week before that USC game. And Washington was clearly the right side, and they should have won that game, and they did. But that was kind of the moment where it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe this Arizona team has turned the corner. Jed Fish has done a really nice job. They only need 2 more wins for bowl eligibility, and they will have a real shot to do it. If they win today, they are going to a bowl because they're going to either win the Territorial Cup later in the year against Arizona State, or they're going to win in Boulder in a few weeks against a battered Colorado team. Speaking of Colorado, Alex, they're on the road today at the Rose Bowl against UCLA. It's down to 14.5 and 15 in the market. You were on the 17 with the rest of the Sharps this week. You can't advocate a play now, though, correct?
I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I'm not a big UCLA fan right now. I don't like what they're doing with the rotating quarterbacks. So I think they're, mid in the Pac-12. I think this is a good spot for Colorado to get back, and I may have sprinkled a little on the money line.
Really?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
pizza money.
Don't I don't see. So this total is where I'm looking. The total has been bet down in this game from 63.5 to 60.
Yep.
The big question in this game for me is, can UCLA take advantage of Colorado's bad defense? If UCLA can take advantage of the Colorado defense, this game is zooming over.
Right.
I'm not so sure. This is one of those for me where UCLA is a really good defense. Colorado is an awful offensive line. Colorado could be the issue more than anything on the UCLA front, because it would be quite the gut punch if UCLA scores 35 points and you can't get over that 60
right.
in a game where UCLA is the problem offense here. But I am concerned about Colorado's ability to block in this game. At 17, I did like the Buffs. I can't get there at 14.5, 14. I think you're just missing too much of it. What's the number you got on the money line, by the way?
Plus 550.
Okay. All right. Hey.
So if I should have jumped in early, when they were 17-point dogs, but doing all my write-ups yesterday, I talked myself into Deion Sanders really having his team pumped up for this one.
Well, we'll see. I don't see it, but hey, look, get the 17. That's really all that matters. We'll cover the 17 first.
Don't you agree, though? You just mentioned UCLA offense is the problem, but what is that three-quarter rotation or 3 QB rotation that they're doing there?
That's usually a thing when you have 3 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
Exactly.
When you have 2 quarterbacks, you have no quarterbacks.
That's same.
I would look. I think it should be Garbers. Like Dante Moore has not shown much of anything in his freshman year, and he could turn out to be good. I would roll at Garbers if I'm UCLA. I will say this as well. It is odd to say about a Chip Kelly team that the offense is the issue,
right?
But that's kind of goes to what the quarterback play has been so far this year for the Bruins, and it's totally reversed of what you would expect out of a Chip Kelly team. All right, before we go here, Alex, I want to go to Madison here real quick. Wisconsin at home, 14.5-point favorites against Ohio State. Ohio State last week, the defense was the reason against Penn State that they were able to win that game. They were dominant. Now they go to Bucky Badger here. Wisconsin was lucky last week. They should have lost that game to Illinois in Champaign. 14.5 feels like a lot, but I just can't get there with Wisconsin. I don't think they're going to have I think they're going to have a big problem moving the ball against that Ohio State defense today. And
you just mentioned it, Ohio State's defense, and then Wisconsin has a very good defense too. So I like the under here.
46.5.
Okay, so it's actually gone up a little bit, but Ohio State's offense just isn't. I mean, even though I was on Ohio State last week and they got the win, I was not impressed with their win and what they did moving the ball against Penn State. And then Wisconsin, miraculous fourth quarter comeback, down by 17, I think. So, yeah, I would lean a little bit more towards the under. I didn't take it, but Wisconsin 14.5 too. It's a little. I don't know. I think it's right there as well.
Yeah, I'm going to stay out of that one. And that could be an in-game play, depending on if Ohio State's offense is capable of moving the ball, which they will get theirs. I don't know how much they'll get, but they'll get theirs at some point. But again, Wisconsin, the Big Ten West is an abomination this year, to be totally honest with you. All right, one last one.
Well, now, and Wisconsin, they have a chance to win the West, right? With
they are in first place.
Yeah.
Even with Iowa having a tiebreak. They are in first place in that division. Last one here today. I want to go to Austin real quick because we had this conversation a little bit before the show. BYU on the road at Texas. Malik Murphy's going to start in place of Quinn Ewers, who's out with the shoulder injury. No Arch Manning in this one. It is Murphy, the redshirt freshman. BYU is 5-2, but their offensive numbers are gross. They're under 5.5 yards per play. They were bad on offense again a week ago, but Texas Tech was not able to take advantage of it. Alex, it's weird to say in a game where Quinn Ewers, one of the better quarterbacks in the country, is out. The bettors have bet Texas here. It's up to 20 now on the horns with a total of 50 in this one, and there's even some 20.5 in the market now.
Yeah, I had no interest in taking the points with BYU, so I can see the movement here with Texas. I mean, they are the better team. Their one loss came late in that game against Oklahoma. So I think the number is just right. I have no play on it. But you're right. BYU, I was on them last week. Good situational spot. They were at home. Got Texas Tech in a bad spot. They were on their third-string quarterback. But still, looking at those numbers offensively, they just can't really do anything.
No, it has not been a good go so far this year on offense for BYU. But, hey, one more win, they're bowl eligible. That's all they're really playing for this year in their first year in the Big 12. All right. That's all the time we have. This has been Sports by the Book. Alex, we'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yes.
9 a.m. for our NFL show. Vinny will probably be back at some point. Who knows? Maybe Jimmy will even show up tomorrow. For Alex White, I'm Jeff Parles. Shout out to the crew, Sean and Jerry here today, making sure we're on the air and we're somewhat in line. Not all the way in line, but somewhat in line. I'm Jeff Parles. We'll see you again tomorrow. Sports by the Book here at the South Point Studio.